What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel with me, Free Tip Scout, where we've got a lot to do today. We've got a lot to do. I'm thinking it's about time we spent some time looking into the MLS, and in particular today, I want to actually start scouting and exploring different forwards in the MLS that you can look at for next season. Now, I haven't done really any kind of prior research, or I haven't really been keeping like tabs on transfers, anything like that really. I've kind of kept an eye and an ear out, but I haven't really been keeping a serious look on it. So it's actually going to be quite useful for me today, where I can kind of explore what's going on, get up to speed with all the news on MLS, especially forwards. And then what we're going to kind of do is that every Sunday running up until the MLS, we'll look at like a different position again. So for example, next week we could look at the midfielders, and we look at defenders. The week after, then we can look at goalkeepers, because it's not that long. It's not that long until the MLS starts. It starts on the 22nd of February. So that's like 6 weeks away, which is, that will go quickly. So yeah, I figured we're going to do some research. We're going to do some scouting. A lot of you guys will probably know a lot of players as well. So, you know, you'll be probably keeping track of the players, what forwards have been moving in and out of the league. So it's just a great opportunity for us to kind of learn together and explore together. Who have we got here in the chat, first of all? Let me say hello to everyone, and then let's see how everyone's doing as well. Hello to Shyla. Merry Christmas to you as well, man. Noodle as well. I only have Justin Glad in my gallery. There's a Noodle. Yeah, there's quite a lot of activity. I'm going to show you a couple of sources that are always worth like keeping tabs on if you are looking to get some players for the MLS, because there's always a lot of activity that happens in January. Hello also to Doganus5 and Beast as well. Who else we got in the chat? It's a little bit too quiet. We're gonna kind of hold off starting until we get a few more in here. So hold our horses for the time being. But how's everyone doing? Apple 22 as well. Hello to you, man. Hello, Apple 22. How's everyone's weekends going in Sorare? I'm going to quickly show you mine. I think a few of you guys already know, because I did post a few days ago how the weekend was going for me. Pretty much my weekend is already done. I have a few more players still to play, and in particular, I have this team which has hit the threshold for me. I have this team which is going to play again because they have a double game week. So this team could actually do even better, but if they don't, then I'm actually happy with it, because this was, I didn't have many lineups, you can see here, and this was pretty much the main lineup that I had for the weekend that I thought had the best chance of doing well, and so it's quite nice that it is doing well. Hit the threshold comfortably, and as I say, they've got a double game week, so we might even be able to squeeze out more points from this team. But if not, we're going to get the £4 threshold, which is great. And if we are lucky, we might even get like a card award, probably not a tier 3, but we might be able to sneak like a tier 4 or a tier 5, which would be a nice sort of bonus to have from the weekend. And then, yeah, Academy, we don't really talk about. Cap 220, at the moment, this is in play, but this probably isn't going to do that great. Because we have Benji, who was a sub player, and then Cardoso. There's like 5 minutes left of that game, and I've captained him. Unless he does something amazing now, then, yeah, obviously we've captained a player that's going to give us a score of about 45, which isn't great. So, yeah, I wasn't expecting too much from this because of Benji. But, yeah, and it looks like it's going to fizzle out. Cap 240, this is a bit of a shame, actually, Cap 240, because our new signing, not our new signing, but the new player that we got as part of the rewards, Ali Karimi, he actually got a really good score of 61.6. We captained Figueiredo, who didn't do that good. And then Camara was a sub, and then Chidozie didn't even play. So I think this is actually like the first weekend in like 7 or 8 weekends now in a row. This is like the first time where we're not going to hit the threshold in rare on the weekend. So, yeah, a little bit annoying, but at the same time, I was kind of thinking, ooh, I don't know whether we could do it, even if we had all the players that were starting. I think it would have been like a bit of a struggle. And you can see here as well, we've got no points. So when Figueiredo basically delivered that score, and then I saw that Chidozie didn't even play, I just cancelled the lineup. I thought there's no point. I can try and sell these players in the meantime, which is what I'm trying to do. I've got them up for sale. Hello to Arthur. Good afternoon. I bought 5 players for the MLS. Do tell us who you've bought. Happy New Year as well to Yorkie. Hello to Robbie as well. Yeah, that's the thing. This Chidozie, like, I selected him, but I had nobody else to put in. So I didn't really expect him to score because, as you say, he's away with the AFCON squad. But that's why I didn't really expect this team to do that great. Hello also to Audris Finagres as well. How's it going? This is good. There's a lot more of you guys in here now, which is cool. As you can see, we've got more academy teams, so just basically training teams for me. So that's it. Our main focus really was the Cap 240 Limited, and that's going really well. So that's pretty much how we're doing for the weekend on Sorare. But how's everybody else doing? No lineups until 443, until game week 443 for Apple 22. This was a bit of a weird game week, wasn't it? Because there were some games that were happening, but there weren't a load of games that were happening. There weren't like loads of active leagues. So it kind of felt like if you could put a lineup out, then great. But if you probably weren't putting out your strongest lineup, right? And this, for me, isn't even my strongest lineup for Cap 240. So I'm actually really grateful that they're doing very good. But I thought for Rare, this is definitely not our strongest team in Rare. Playing Figueiredo, Karimi, Camara, like these 4, we never play in Cap 240. So, yeah, we wasn't expecting anything from it, and we don't. Do you feel like a Seattle stack will be successful in Cap 240 this season? Is this something that we're going to be trying to work out? Because I don't think so, personally, but I also am not up to speed with all of the ins and outs of Seattle. I know a few, I know, like, for example, Nicholas Ladero has left Seattle, and for me, he was like one of their best players. So the fact that he's left makes me already think that it's probably not going to be a good team to stack with. But we need to do the research today. We need to do the legwork so we can answer that question. Because I've honestly not really looked at it over Christmas. I didn't really have time to look at transfers and whatnot. So this is what we're going to be doing today. And on that note, let's actually bring up a site here, which I think everybody should use. If you probably are already using it, but if you are not, then you should start to use it, especially if you are going to be buying MLS players. You need to be going over to MLSsoccer.com. Like, this is such a very good website. It covers transfers as well. It covers like rumors, news. It's so good. It covers rosters. It covers everything, basically. Everything you could want about the MLS is basically covered here. And the journalism's really good. The reporting's really good. Look, it gives you some like reviews around the season. It's really, really good. So you should be following this. You should be adding this to your bookmark websites. And then you should be using like the transfer tracker that they have. So for example, if we just go on here, this is actually quite a good place to start talking about Suarez, because I wanted to talk about him today anyway. But I think that this is head and shoulders probably the biggest, one of the biggest transfers in the MLS for the new season, because it's a link up again with Messi. And you can see here that it's kind of like the confirmation about Suarez. It gives you some information about like his contract and all that sort of stuff. And then if you go down all the way to the bottom, it will give you the journalist who's basically written this this piece. You can then go onto their profile on Twitter. So this guy here, for example, Jonathan Segal, would be a really useful person to follow, just for any kind of news or anything like that, right? But we go back again. what's really cool here is that they have these little tags at the bottom. So if you want to just see all of the transfers that have been happening in the MLS, then you just click on the transfer tracker tag, and then it brings you into the news, topics, and transfer tracker section of the site. So this site here, let me put the link in the chat. This here, you should definitely bookmark. You should really bookmark this here. Bookmark that right now so that you can just always come back immediately to this page and see what are the most recent transfers that have been happening in and out of the MLS, right? And this is, we'll be using this a lot today because, yeah, for example, you can see Ladero, he's gone to Orlando City. You've got Kamal Miller, he's gone to Portland Timbers. It's really cool. Look, Mensah signed for New England. It just shows you immediately some of the big transfers that happened, right? And it's really, really cool. So we're going to come back to this. The other thing that you should do if you're looking to get up to speed with transfers in the MLS, first of all, I know a lot of you guys are already following him, but of course you should follow Fabrizio Romano. So that's one account on Twitter you definitely should follow. And then the other one as well is David Ornstein. Okay, so David Ornstein, also really worth a follow. So if you're following Romano and you're following Ornstein, then you will already have like quite a nice rounded view of transfers that are happening in the football world. For the MLS specifically, there's one other guy that you should look at, and it's Tom Bogert. So Tom Bogert, he essentially writes for the MLS, the Guardian, this one here, BR Football, also the Athletic mainly though, and he's generally considered to be like the main transfer man for MLS players in the MLS league. So make sure you're following him too. He will often give you information, like here, for example, 20 hours ago, he kind of gives you like a tweet talking about some potential deals that are maybe happening and rumors. Most notably, you can see here that Colorado completes a club record Mihalovic signing, which is massive. So really cool. You should be following him for sure.
Welcome to the real world.
You can see here, look, he talks a little bit more again about Jordi Mihalovic, who's just absolutely amazing. A lot of you guys will remember him when he was playing in the MLS before. He then went for like a season to AZ Alkmaar, and it's been okay, but it's not really worked out for him, which is why he's going to be moving back to the MLS, and he will do insane things again in the MLS. He's so young still as well, that he's, like stuff like this, information like this is really useful. So make sure you're following him. Thank you also to Tom Half Yard for the follow, man. Really appreciate that. I'm back next weekend. Let's go. I need 60 points for my forward, Halil Akbunar, on Tuesday. Random guy didn't start the game again, at least got subbed on, but it would have been way easier, the guy playing from the start. And Samu Sides got subbed off very early, sadly. Portland Timbers will shine, same with Galaxy. Galaxy have made some good signings from what I can see at the moment. I think also Colorado are looking like they've made some good signings too. But let's start with, because this is mainly focused on forwards today, right? I'm sure we will get a little bit off track where we might spot like a story or a rumor, and then we'll start talking about that player that might be a position completely different from a forward. But let's start with forwards, right? Because there's enough forwards for us to talk about for the whole afternoon. And I definitely want to talk about Suarez to begin with, because everybody was anticipating this move when Messi went to Inter, and when they also, let's just bring up the whole Inter Miami squad here. Bring it up, right? Inter Miami. Here we go. Happy New Year to Anathabam as well. Hello to you, man. How's it going? Let's go back here. Club friendlies. I was going to say, what league is this? This league was ridiculous. It's a club friendly one. Why are they doing that, though? Let's go into the squad. Where's the squad? What's happened there? It's bizarre that they're giving us that, really. Because usually when you go on here, you can see the squad. So what's happened there? This is like a bit of a bug, look. Can we see the squad down here? Here we go, finally. It's weird. It's kind of like giving us the like a friendly table, which, you know, I've never seen before on SofaScore. But anyways, we go down, we see the squad. And yeah, when Messi went over, and they also picked up Busquets and Alba, everyone was then expecting, because there was a lot of transfer news and rumors, that Suarez would eventually make the move over to Inter Miami. And he's now there, which means that you could, next season, you could run a Messi and Suarez forward combo up front. Now, I was looking at Suarez, right? I was looking at him earlier on today and also yesterday, and it's Suarez linking up with Messi. So this is like the dream combo, especially given the fact it's in the MLS, right? Where Suarez will smash it. He will absolutely smash it in the MLS alongside Messi. The problem here, I think, with Suarez is that when you look at his price here of £238 in the rare, I think this is really expensive for the current state of the market and the current state of prices in the game. I think this is really expensive for a 36-year-old that basically doesn't give you any extra utility at all, really. What do you guys think? I think this is just far too high. And what hopefully we'll show you over the course of this stream is that you'll be able to find other forwards that will be able to score just as good, maybe not just as good as on a consistent basis, but they'll be able to get there or thereabouts, but for significantly lower than £238. And I think that a lot of this price is the hype price, knowing that Suarez is going to be moving to the MLS. He's going to be playing in there next season for Inter Miami with Messi. So the potential for the stack of Messi and Suarez to just be smashing it every week is huge. And so I think that is being factored in. It's almost like a tax now, like an Inter Miami tax for him. I personally wouldn't pay £238 for a 36-year-old Suarez, when I think that we can find forwards for way cheaper. But has anybody bought Suarez? Is anybody thinking about buying Suarez? Because I think if you can do it, then it would be a really good move to do it. And I don't think that it would work against you. I think actually it would be a good purchase. But I personally just think that's a lot of money. But there might be some out there that don't. So who is thinking about getting him? Even in the limited, for example, it doesn't even have to be the rare. Is anybody thinking about getting him and starting to build an Inter Miami on a stack, attacking stack anyway, for next season? It's very weird to play rare cap the past weeks, but also it's kind of chill. I had a lot of time to put into scouting. I like playing, that's why I like playing the rare cap modes, because the scouting that you do feels worthwhile. When you do scouting for like the limited, well, for me anyway, for the cap modes for the limited competitions, it doesn't often feel at times like it's worth the time. But for rare, it definitely does. I had two Suarez's when he was at Gremio and sold him for about the price he is on today, and he dropped a lot. Let's have a quick look then at his scoring wise. Anyway, we know that's the thing with this player. You know what you're going to get with Suarez. Like he's just like a proven talent, and even at 36, he's still going to do the business in the MLS. And his scoring's been great for Gremio last season. I think he got, what did he get? Like, he got a huge amount of goals for them. I can't remember how many he got. Let's have a quick look. I think, did he get like 14 in 30? We'll have a quick gander. He done well, I think, for Gremio, who weren't even that good last season. Let's bring up, he's not even here. Let's bring him up then. Suarez. Mr. 2-3. Hello to Mark Gork. I haven't seen any more 2-3s though, or 3-2s. I'm keeping an eye out. I'm hoping we get another one. If we do, that would be insane. Because then we would, I mean, we're already making a mockery on Pooky because we're currently sitting 10th. We're sitting 10th out of like 1,000 people. And we've just put 3-2 in. He got 17 to the guy. I thought it was there or thereabouts. I said 14. He got 17 goals in 33 games for Gremio last season. He was having a crazy amount of shots, like 3.9 shots on average per game. That is insane. That is so many shots, and 1.7 on average on target, which is just incredible. And that's what you want. You want that. And I think that those stats will probably they'll probably carry over into the MLS because the MLS is very goal heavy. It's very shot heavy. Lots of teams just go for it. And Inter Miami are going to be on the front foot a lot of the time because of the fact they have Robert Taylor, Suarez, they've got Messi. And since they got those guys, like they've just started to build a really strong attacking unit that is a big threat in pretty much every game. So yeah, like pretty cool. I think that if we looked at where we're going to go here, sorry. Where's that? 1 second. Let's go back. Oh, look what opens up there. A 2-3. Is it a 2-3? Where's it a 2-3? Is there a 2-3 happening in the Serie A right now? Tell me there isn't. Well, tell me there is, but no. I think I've had this one at 3-2 as well. But yeah, I saw it was 2-0 earlier, so Fluminense versus Gremio, yeah. The great thing with Suarez, right, and I'm not kidding, is that when you look at Gremio, okay, so Gremio last season, they didn't do so great, right? They done okay. I'm saying they didn't do so great. They done okay. They done pretty good, actually, to be fair. Came second. So they were okay. I think they were a little bit patchy to start with. And like I didn't, when I watched them, I wasn't really too convinced a lot of the time. They lost 12 games, which is kind of sizable. But then if you look at the rest of the teams, they were pretty much in the same ballpark, right? A lot of them lost a lot too in double figures. So they done, they definitely relied on Suarez's goals. Next season, how many goals do we think that Suarez is going to get for Inter Miami? Because I think personally that next season, I think Suarez could get 16, 17, potentially more than that. If I'm honest with you, that's probably on the low end. I wouldn't even be surprised if he got closer to 20. So you're going to get a lot of good goals from him. His AA, funnily enough, was actually quite good as well for Gremio. So if we look at Gremio here, he had an AA of 10.5, which for a forward is insane. And if he can have that same level of AA, which I think he can in the MLS, then he'll be a serious player to have, which is probably why his price is so high. No, I think Suarez would be a really interesting option for next year if you can afford it. Is anybody thinking about getting him? Is anybody actually picking him up? Has anybody already picked him up? If you have picked him up, then are you going to be doing the Messi link up as well? Because that would be expensive to do. Suarez at 238, and then Messi, who's I think around what in the rare 400? Well, 700. Oh my God. Wow. So to get those two 36-year-olds in rare, you're basically looking at £1,000. That's far too much, isn't it? Far too much. I mean, you could say, look, picking a Messi is always going to be expensive and rare, but it's a Messi. But then to spend 300 or so on a Suarez, wow. Damn. How high was Messi rare a year ago? Messi's rare a year ago was a lot. Yeah, Messi's rare a year ago was like nearly £5,500. That was on the 21st of January. We go back a bit more. literally a year to the day. So it's the 7th of January today, and the 7th of January last year, he was £4,697. £4,697 in the rare. I mean, that is mind-boggling, the difference a year makes in Sorare. Because if you bought that guy, Messi, if you bought Messi for that, I'm sure you would have got a lot of good scoring out of him, and he would have helped you to win lots of rewards, right? But that's got to be painful to look at the price that you paid for Messi a year ago and to now see that you can get him on the market today for £691. And it's not, we're not even talking about a guy here that's on the verge of retiring or doesn't play or has been suffering with injuries. We are talking about the best player in the world. Wow, that's a rough one. But I mean, obviously, if you can afford a Messi, then it's still horrible to see that drop right in his price. But you've probably been able to win back enough rewards over the course of the year that almost make up and pay the cost of his card anyway. You'd like to hope so anyway. If you have a Messi and you're not winning like rewards regularly, then you're definitely doing something wrong in Sorare. CR7 is the best. Oh, I don't know about that. And I'm a Man United fan, so I love Ronaldo, but come on, man. Come on. I think the debate for that is over. It's got to be Messi. Did it make you win 4K worth of prizes? That's the thing. I think it would have. I think over a year you would have expected that Messi would have been able to deliver at least 4K's worth of prizes. If not, then I think that whoever has a Messi is then not running a Messi properly. So yeah, Suarez. 5K on rare. Come on, this is not 2020. How should you win as much in 1 year? I know it's difficult. It's, especially with the prices all sort of taking a tumble over the last year. You can imagine that someone would have spent sort of like 5K or so on a Messi, hoping then to win like seriously high value cards a lot of the time. And for probably the most part, they would have. But if you looked at and it's pretty consistent, I think, with most players, right, over the last year, is that it's kind of been a little bit of a tumble on their prices. This is a big recovery for Suarez because of the fact that, yeah, everyone's now starting to focus on the MLS. But so many players just lost so much value that it then becomes harder and harder, doesn't it, to recoup your cost of like a Messi if the prizes that you're winning are lower and lower and lower in value the more that you win. Be interested to get your thoughts on Jesus Ferreira as an MLS forward this year if you can. Okay. So Jesus Ferreira is amazing. Absolutely amazing. He's been one of the go-to forwards for the MLS for years now. So my opinion of him is very, very good. What's the only thing with Jesus Ferreira is that is there not like a rumor? Are there not stories that he's moving? Because there's been a lot of interest in him for a really long time. And so I would be surprised in a way if he was going to stay. Because I almost expected, he has a contract which doesn't expire until like the end of next year, but he's a big talent and there has just been a lot of interest in him for a while now. I wonder if we can see any rumors on him. Nothing here. Let's have a little look. Let's put his name into Twitter. If he stays in the MLS, then it's a no-brainer. Yeah, if he stays in there, he's going to do really good. But my concern is just like whether he's going to stay. And again, if anybody knows any rumors or any stories, then please holler in the chat. Skills, hello, man. How you doing? So someone's asking here, will Jesus Ferreira leave Dallas? Who's this guy here? Okay, he's asking. Okay, he guess it's a possibility, but doesn't know any more about it. That's my only concern with him. I think he's great. He's amazing, but I don't know whether he's gonna stay or not. I haven't heard any serious clubs looking at him. Like, seriously. I know that last season and the season before, there's always been his name attached to, like, European clubs are looking at him and they'd like to bring him over, but there's never really been anything serious that's like materialized from it. So yeah, that's my opinion of him. I think he's amazing. I think if you pick him up, let's just bring him up as well. I think if you pick him up and he does move to Europe, then there's a couple of things with it. Is that he could do amazing, but most of the time, what we're seeing when like American players go over from the MLS to European leagues and clubs is that they're not able to like get the same level of scoring, and most of the time that's because they are playing in a tougher league. They're playing for a team that will have better quality players as well, so they might even struggle to be the main man in the team. They might struggle to get the minutes on the pitch as well. So if he was to move and you were looking at picking him up, and what you might find is that his price could take a little bit of a hit. But because he's still so young, and he is such a good player, that if you do go for this type of play, it really should just be like a long-term investment where you pick him up and you don't think about exiting out of him for years and years and years. So you pick him up, you sit on him forever. Because then that way you're not bothered whether his price does take a little bit of a hit if he moves to Europe. But does anybody know whether there's any stories on him? I mean, we can do some more searching now, but I haven't heard anything on him. The transfer rumors, let's put that in here now. Okay, no contact from Cadiz. This was back in August last year. Let's have a quick look here on news. Is there anything recently? Doesn't really look like it at the moment. I wonder if we can see anything on here. Let's type Jesus Ferreira in. Okay, so this is talking about 3 players each Western Conference club should build around, and I'm assuming that Jesus Ferreira is one of them that's mentioned for Dallas here in a year's look. Yeah. So let's assume he's going to stay. If he stays, then he's going to be a great option. If you look at the price, this is what's really interesting, right? If you look at the price of Ferreira, he's £236 on the market right now. So someone's got him up listed for 236, and over the last 3 days, he's been 210. Last week, he's been 205. Last 2 weeks, 202. So he's hovering around the £200 to 200. Well, hovering around the £200 mark. So this 236 is a little bit like too much, really. When you compare what you can get out of this guy and you compare it to Suarez, honestly, I'm picking a Jesus Ferreira over a Suarez because he's an under 23 player. That means you get just much longer utility out of him, right? Suarez is 36, which means that he's got a higher risk of injuries because he's just older. His body can't handle the demands of professional football as much anymore. Yes, he is still amazing, but he could also retire potentially in like 2 years or 3 years, whereas Ferreira probably would only retire if he was forced through injury, right? But all things being considered, that you'd expect this guy to be playing for the next 10 to possibly even 15 years, right? And it's not like you're going to get a player here that can't match Suarez for scoring, because he can, and he's so consistent at scoring goals as well. Over the last year, he got 20 in 37, which is a fantastic return. 7 assists as well. His AA was 12.1. So even though Suarez hasn't actually played in the MLS yet, let's just assume that he gives a similar level of AA. in the MLS, right, of around 10, then Jesus Ferreira can match him for that anyways. So this is why I feel like the Suarez price is just really expensive. And if I was going to spend that, then I would want to spend it on a player like Ferreira. And I think if you are spending this on a Suarez, it's really only just to get that link up with Messi, because there are, and this is just one example, there are other forwards out there for the MLS that, you know, can offer you, I think, better value for money than a Suarez. I'm hoping Klaus dominates this season. He's a good forward that we should talk about, actually. I'm glad you mentioned Klaus. We're gonna bring him up now, because Klaus, I think a lot of people picked him up, and he had quite a good start to the season last year, but then he got injured, and then he was out for a while, and then when he kind of came back, he didn't really match the same level of scoring as what he had kind of towards the start of the season, right? So you can see this was the start of the season, which was phenomenal. Then he had this like really big injury, and then he came back. He was kind of trying to build up his fitness again. Then he started to get back and hint that he could do that again. And then pretty much the season was kind of over. Look, kind of finished then. So by the time he came back, he didn't really have enough time to play enough games to get the level of scoring that we saw at the start of the season. But I'm with you. I think, you know, he's a very good player, and he was showing like glimpses of brilliance. 10 goals basically in 21 games, right? And 2 assists, and he only started in 16 of them is brilliant. The only thing with him is that you can see that his AA hasn't really been that great. It does improve when you just look at the starts that he's had for St. Louis City. So in the 16 starts that he's had, he has an AA of 7.7, which is actually pretty good for a forward. But when you compare that AA to someone like Ferreira, there's quite a big difference of 12.1 to 7.7. There was a big difference in the price as well. But yeah, Klaus is good. He's good. The only thing with Klaus, right, is that he's good. And I think St. Louis City done really well. Like, they really did. Let's bring them up, because I think a lot of people forget that it was actually their first season ever in the MLS, right? Their first ever season in the MLS. And last season, right, they effectively finished 4th in their first ever debut season in the overall ranking. So, I mean, they scored so many goals as well. Look, 62 goals in 34 games. I think there was only two teams that outscored them. One of them was Atlanta, who got 66 goals, and then the other one was Columbus, right, who got 67. And the fact that they scored 62 goals and their main man Klaus was out for so many games is actually quite frightening, because they could have easily scored 70 plus goals, right, if they had Klaus for the full season. It was between him and Diego Rossi, really, unsure on which is better. So I'm a big fan of Diego Rossi, and I'm a big fan of Diego Rossi because I loved it when he used to play for LAFC a few years back, because he was phenomenal when he was playing for LAFC. And I used to follow, like, when I was following the MLS, like when I started to get into the MLS, right, I started to watch a lot of LAFC, and I was watching a lot of Diego Rossi. So I've always had like a big affinity for him since then. And I think that if you were going to pick between, say, Ferreira or Rossi, then I'll be honest with you, I would actually still pick Ferreira because he's younger. But with Rossi, like, Rossi's £300. Wow. This is a lot. I did not expect Rossi to be more than Ferreira. And for me personally, I don't think that makes a lot of sense. Because even though Rossi's incredible and he's still quite young, he's only 25, playing for Columbus Crew, right? Who were brilliant. His level of scoring was insane. You can see that right here. You are going to get a lot of that same scoring from Jesus Ferreira. I'm pretty surprised that he's like £300, you know. Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot. Do you know a cheap striker attacker that plays and sometimes scores? What? Do I know a cheap striker that plays and sometimes scores? What, in the MLS? Because that's what we're doing at the moment. I'm going to run through and talk about all the players that I think are really worth looking at. Diego Rossi is actually, if you can afford him, then Diego Rossi 100% is like, yeah, get Diego Rossi and then pair him up with Cucho Hernandez, and then you've got your own. In fact, how much would that be? Because we were looking at the Suarez and the Messi stack up, right? And that would have cost you about 1,000 in the rare. But Rossi and then Cucho Hernandez would cost you what? Probably the same? Wow, it wouldn't. Oh my God. Okay. So here's what's interesting, okay? You could spend £1,000 on buying a Lionel Messi rare and a Suarez rare, right? And then that's your forward stack for the MLS, right? Or you could spend, what's that, 700? Save yourself £300 and get Rossi and Cucho Hernandez. And Cucho Hernandez was like one of, if not the best player in the MLS last season. And the level of scoring that you get is very Messi-esque anyway. Like, his AA is incredible. Look at the amount of decisives that the guy got. Got 24 goals in 36 games, right? And 10 assists, and he has an AA of 14. So this is what makes the whole Inter Miami pricing even more crazy, is the fact that he's really expensive. Messi, of course, is really expensive, but it's Messi, and you do get a little bit more additional utility with him. But if you're just purely looking to have a team that can smash, or a forward line that can smash in America or the MLS, then you definitely don't need to spend 1,000. Cucho, I think, was the second top goal scorer in the MLS. I'm going to show you now. Let's bring up the MLS here. Let's go back into here. I've picked up Pulido, had him last year, bought at £8 and sold at 18 this year. Sold at 18 and then this year bought at £4. I like Pulido a lot. I was looking at Pulido because you guys know that I really like him anyway, but I was looking at his rare the other day, and his rare is like £70-80, which I think is far too cheap for that type of player. I really do. Go back on here. I think what I did see though on the tracker is that Sporting KZ, I think, have signed a new forward, which we'll take a look at now. So you can see here that Cucho Hernandez was the second highest goal scorer in the MLS with 21 goals. Boanga got 24, and Boanga was just an absolute monster. I think what's also quite interesting here is that you can see like Pulido's there with 14, and he signed a new contract, so he's not going anywhere. There was like a lot of talk that he was maybe going to move back to La Liga, not back to Liga MX, sorry, the Mexican league, but he's not. He's going to be staying now. He signed a new designated player contract at Sporting KZ. Then you've got Benteke with 14, which I think is a little bit low for Benteke, 14. So we know that this type of player is capable of more. So maybe next season he can improve on that. Brian White is an interesting one though, right? Because I actually thought that Vancouver weren't that great last year. If we go like here, Vancouver, they kind of finished pretty much like mid-table in the overall rankings, and they're just not a team that really impressed me. Brian White consistently, every season, will usually get around 10 plus goals, right? He's almost like a very overlooked forward. And I think Brian White, if we bring up Brian White here, we'll have a look at his price value. He's only £102 on the market, which I have to be honest with you, I think is still a little bit too high for this type of player, because you don't really get any AA, and like most of his scoring is not great to give you the real high end that you need to get rewards, say, for example, in Champ America. So you really want more 80-point scoring from him. For £100, it's not bad. Really isn't. And he's got a good track record of scoring. He's got 41 goals, actually, in what, 119 games or so. So he's decent. I think the frustrating thing with him is that he's very hot and cold. So you don't, like, he's one of those forwards in Sorare where he's going to have these runs, he's going to do good, but then if he doesn't do anything, he literally is going to score trash, right? He's going to score like 30, 40, and that's just really, in the current state of the game, that's just actually not really that good enough anymore. You almost need a forward that can kind of regularly score like this, which he's done a few times, but you almost need a forward that can regularly hit you scores of 50, maybe even 60 without a decisive. And he's just, because his AA is so low, just doesn't tend to do it very often. One forward that does tend to do it in his AA is the likes of Daniel Shalhoub, who I know a lot of you guys know, and also Johnny Russell, who plays for the same team. So Sporting KZ are a very good attacking team. And Daniel Shalhoub, when he doesn't score, and he doesn't tend to score like crazy amounts, I think last season was a little bit underwhelming for him, really. He only got 9 goals, but then he got 8 assists in 40 games, actually. But when he doesn't do good, look, you kind of get this from him, which I think is really useful. So, like, he will give you scores like this in the 50-point range because his AA is very, very good. So, for me personally, I would actually spend the additional £50 or whatever to try and pick up a Shalhoub than I would to get a Brian White. Thank you also to Steven for the sub, man. Welcome back into the channel. Thank you so much for the support. Thoughts between Capetti and Swiderski. It'll be interesting to see how Cincinnati replaces Brandon Vazquez. Yeah, this is something I want to talk about, and we'll talk about that soon. How they replace Brandon Vazquez, and also most likely how they replace Barriol, because Barriol's potentially moving to Europe as well. There's like there's a few clubs that are interested in him. I think there's one Bundesliga club that's interested in him, and I think it was it Lons? I think it might have been Lons who's also interested in him too. But yeah, I'd also like to know who Cincinnati are going to replace Brandon Vazquez with. So we'll do some looking into that shortly. Had White before, a bit too hit and miss, and sometimes gets dropped. Yeah, I'm not too bothered about him getting dropped because when he was getting dropped, like here, I think it was just largely like you can see. Like this game here was like that was that weird kind of what was it called? Can't remember the name of the tournament that it was in, but you know the joint tournament between the MLS and Liga MX. It was kind of that, but then he got dropped here every now and then. I think because he suffered with injuries a little bit, Brian White. I think they don't want to stress him too much. But the sub appearances don't bother me. It's just when he does start. If we filter by the starts here, when he does start, he's just one of those forwards where, like, you can see it. You can see there's no scoring happening in the mid-range at all. And there's just far too much scoring happening down here. And that's my big problem with him. As you say, he's very hit and miss, right? He doesn't do anything. He will just score you 35. And ideally, you want to try and avoid a forward like that. He reminds me very much of, let's just bring him up. He reminds me, his namesake, he reminds me very much of Jordan White, right? So Jordan White, who's a forward for Ross County, Jordan White scores very similar to Brian White. Look. Like there's nothing going on here, look. Look at the scoring. Now, Brian White scores a little bit better, right? So we have to make that clear. He scores a little bit better. He's just a better goal scorer. He's playing in a league as well. There's just loads more goals happening, more over 2.5. The teams are more on the front foot. Whereas in the Scottish League, there doesn't tend to be as many goals. It's, for Ross County, they're not exactly one of the strongest attacking teams. So Jordan White's always going to struggle to match him for goals. But when you look at the level of scoring, like both of these guys, they just don't have anything in the middle. There's like a big gap between when they do good and when they don't do good. And you can see as well that Jordan White, he struggles to score 80 points or more. Brian White also struggles to score 80 points or more. And again, they both don't really score in the mid-range, which is actually kind of useful to have so that when your forwards don't do that great, they still give you a score of 50, which can sometimes be the big difference between missing out on a card or not. The Leagues Cup, that was what it was called. Yeah, thank you, man. Couldn't for the life of me remember what it was called, but you're right, the Leagues Cup. Giacomakis with 19 goals, with not one being a penalty, but Almeida was so good for him. Yeah, Giacomakis is brilliant too. Very good forward to look at. Thanks again for the Budapest recommendations. Lad had a blast. Is Esprilla still a possibility for MLS forwards? I think he is, yeah. I think he is. He is just like Claudio Bravo. One game week, he will be shy, and one game week, he will carry the lineup. Who are we talking about? We're talking about Brian White here. Because the difference between, I wouldn't actually compare Claudio Bravo to Brian White. Like I think I get your point though, is that, yeah, when he does something, he will do something decent, right? But the big difference between Bravo and White is that Bravo will at least hit scores of 80, 90, 100. And to be fair, Brian White hit one score of 100 over in his all time. But with Brian White, when he plays and does good, his good is kind of giving you a score of like 60 to 70. Whereas Claudio Bravo's good is when he's going to hit you a score of like 90 or 100. So, yeah. But they're very hit and miss. If anything, Brian White is a bit more of a cap 220 player. But the problem with him is that his L40 of 53 and his L15 of 56 doesn't really make him a viable option for cap 220. And I don't think that I would run a Brian White as my main forward for like Champ America, for example. I might run him in cap 240, but because he just doesn't have that AA, I wouldn't really be that comfortable running a player like that in cap 240. So he's a really tricky one. So I wouldn't really know where to play him. And it's so funny that we're saying that because we're talking about a player that actually, you can see here, where we at? Let's go back here to the goals. That actually was the fifth best goal scorer in the MLS last season. And yet I'm saying that I don't know whether I would actually want to use him or go for him. The other thing as well is that I don't really like Vancouver as a team. But let's go to the MLS tracker here. Let's go back. We are getting ahead of ourselves. Let's go back to the tracker. Here we go. Let's go to tracker and let's also go to the MLS here. So we can look at the transfers that have happened. Transfer overview. Okay, and then let's look at, we can't filter by positions, which is a little bit of a shame. Top transfers, let's do that instead. Here we go. Top transfers, and then let's filter by position here, forwards, and then display. Do you know something about the Atlanta goalkeeper situation? What is the thing that you want to know? Because I think Atlanta, they have signed a new goalkeeper, haven't they? I wouldn't, if you're asking about Brad Guzan, I wouldn't pick him. I've said that for a while now. Don't pick Brad Guzan at all. A lot of these transfers, let's look at arrivals actually. A lot of these kind of transfers have already happened. yeah, like Timo Pukki, for example. Timo Pukki, God, there's so many good forwards, isn't there? There's Suarez now. You got Sam Surridge as well for Nashville. He didn't really do that great, actually. Sam Surridge. Sam Surridge. Yeah, Sam Surridge is 164 pounds. That's a lot. That's far too much. So, like, this is an example, in my opinion, of a player that you don't want to spend 164 pounds on. For me, this is the type of player that you want to be spending less than £100 easily, and ideally trying to get him for kind of 70, 80. And even then, I think that would be too high still for this type of player. He is young still. He just didn't do that great for Nashville. He had like a good game here. He had a few instances here. He doesn't have any AA. And I think he'll have a better season next year. He's playing for a good team, but this isn't the type of player on Sorare that you should be spending, in my opinion, over £100 on. IHB, thank you so much for the follow, man. The sub, actually. Thank you so much, buddy. Philippe Mora or Sprilla for the Timbers could be interesting. Yeah, they could. Apoku at Montreal is all right. No, I don't like Apoku. I've talked about this guy countless times before. This guy here for Montreal, I'm not a fan of this guy at all. I don't know why everyone keeps talking about this guy. Like, why does everyone keep talking about this guy? I don't think this guy is that good. I got to be honest with you. He done okay over the last year. 8 goals and 3 assists is actually not bad for, like Montreal. He's very hit and miss, and he doesn't even really have good AA. So I don't understand. I mean, I'd love to understand, but I don't understand. Every season I see managers talking about this guy, and I don't see it. I don't see what the fuss is about. When you look at his record, he doesn't even have a good goal scoring record, really. He's played nearly 80 games. He's got 17 goals. Like, what's the fuss about this guy? What is the fuss? I know he's young, so you could argue that he's got a lot of time to continue his development and grow and get better. But Ferreira's young too, right? Ferreira is at a way more advanced level than Apoku. And there's countless other under-23 players as well that are just delivering way better than he is. So, yeah, for me, he's a no, definitely. He is cheap, though. Well, his average is kind of cheap at £51. You definitely don't want to be spending like £103 on him. This guy here, Palo, bought him for £73.65 a day ago. Like, right, I'm going to tell you right now, what is this guy doing? What is this guy doing? Spending that much money on this type of player? Like, insane, to be honest with you. Far too high, in my opinion. Even £82 is too high. I think, for me, the absolute maximum that I would spend on this player would be like £50. No more than £50 on this type of player. Because I don't understand. Then I don't know what you're paying for, other than just under 23 utility. But you don't want to pay for under 23 utility if it doesn't help you, right? You don't want to say spend like £100 to get an under 23 player if the level of scoring that they then give you an under 23 is just not good enough to help you to those rewards. And this guy just doesn't have it at all. So, yeah. Let's have a look at Pooky. Timo Pooky. So Timo Pooky, look at this here. £91 for Timo Pooky. Now he's like 10 or so years older. I would pay £91 for a Timo Pooky rather than spending £70, £80 on an Apoku. Because with Timo Pooky, you're getting a player that, to be honest with you, I don't think done that good for Minnesota when he joined them, right? I don't think he did. for the type of player that this guy is, he got 10 goals in 19 games. 18 of those were starts, which is actually a pretty good return rate. His AA was 3.2, which is rubbish, and he doesn't really have a good AA, but he's much more of a proven clinical goal scorer. But I would pay that than paying roughly the same for an Apoku. And I think that Timo Pukki can have an even better year next year. So if you were maybe looking for a budget forward, I think Timo Pukki would be a great one to look at, because you don't have to worry that he's going to be, you know, like, what's the situation with his contract? Is he going to be leaving Minnesota? He's only just joined them. He's got a contract for a while. He's going to be their main target forward up front. So you know he's going to be playing like every game. I'm pretty sure as well he's a designated player. We're going to just look at it now, but you'd expect Timo Pukki to be a designated player. So it'll look. There we go. Minnesota sign designated player forward Timo Pukki. So he's a designated player through to June 2025. This is a much better forward to look at than a Poku. And I'm actually a little bit surprised that he's £91, because I think that next season he will do better. And he has, look at that. He has the potential where he can do that in that type of league. What do you guys reckon? Timo Pukki? I mean, he got, 10 goals last season. Do you reckon he can get more next season? Or do you reckon he'll get less? Do you reckon he'll get the same? What does everyone in the chat think? Let's bring him up as well. I think if I was going to be looking at an MLS forward, then I would probably look at Timo Pukki, because you also get that international utility from him as well, which I think is really, really good for under £100. Pukki is a decent player, improving. Think he'll push on in his second season. Probably 15 goals, reckons Yono Skills. What does the rest of the chat think? In my opinion, kind of same, because Minnesota's trash compared to like Houston. Do you think so? Who have they signed? Who have Minnesota signed? We'll have a look at who they've signed. I'm kind of with you, is that I don't think they've done that good last season. I think they are better than what they've done. God, his record was so good, actually. 2.8 shots per game, 1.5 on target. It's very good. 10 goals in 14. I didn't think that he'd done that great. I didn't think that his record was that good. That's from 14 games. Look, that's not even... That's roughly like a third of the amount of games that there is played in the MLS there. Give or take. If he plays a full season, he can hit like 20 goals, I think. Timo Pukki. You've got Reynoso Rare, so thinking of getting Pukki for a bit of a stack. Oh, Ath Wallace, you have to. If you've got Reynoso, you absolutely should get Timo Pukki. Because then Pukki Reynoso would be... How much would that cost? So Pukki in the rare, £91, right? And then Reynoso, who I know you've already got, but just in case anyone was wondering, wow, £158 in the rare, I actually think is a steal for this type of player. Because Reynoso is actually a cheat code in the MLS, if you didn't know. He does that consistently. Not just like, he hasn't just started to do that. He's been doing that regularly. Look. He's got incredible AA. He does goals, assists. He kind of, I think he used to be on the pens, didn't he, I think, until Pukki was there. Because now Pukki's taking the pens, right? Look, you can see Pukki's taking the penalties for Minnesota. But he's on the free kicks, he's on the set pieces. You have to. I think if you've got Reynoso, then it's almost like a no-brainer to then get Pukki. How many goals do you guys think Timo Pukki is going to get next season? Did we look at Charlotte forwards? No, we haven't. But Swiderski is the one to look at for Charlotte over Capetti. We can look at them now, though. But yeah, Timo Pooky. I know a lot of you guys already know him because of his exploits for Norwich City when he was in the Premier League and also when he was in the Championship. Probably the type of forward that is almost kind of being overlooked because it's probably the type of player that doesn't come to mind initially when you're thinking about forwards in the MLS. But then when you do think about it, his actual return from the games that he had was brilliant. And that was in a season that was actually quite underwhelming for Minnesota. They weren't that good. If they can improve, then he can do even better. And he only played a very small section of the MLS as well. I got Vargas and Capetti as I thought Swiderski was looking to move. What's the situation then with him? Has he moved? Is he going to move? Where's he going to move to? Drop us a source in the chat if you can. I got Vargas and Capetti. If Swiderski doesn't move, then Swiderski is the better option. So a little look. Do you guys have any rumors at all that we can look at on Karol Swiderski in the chat? We've got so many tabs up here as well. I think I'm spelling his name wrong, aren't I? Yeah, I am. Got a bit of a weird name. Oh, there's no E. Okay, Swiderski. Okay. Get rid of the E then. There we go. Here we go. This is from January the 6th, okay? So this is from Tom Bogert. So remember that guy I said you definitely want to make sure that you're following if you are interested in hearing about if you want to hear about transfer rumors and stuff. Oh, let's go back. Here we go. So Karol Swiderski, no official bids have arrived yet, but Bundesliga clubs are among those interested in the striker. Charlotte have the DP forward Enzo Capetti and is revamping the attack under new head coach Dean Smith. Yeah. He's interested in return to Europe after 2 years, but any potential deal wouldn't be cheap. Yeah. This wouldn't be cheap because Charlotte would want to recoup the money on him. And yeah, as FIFA said as well, probably his wage demands would be quite difficult because as a DP for Charlotte in the MLS, he's going to be getting paid probably more than what he's probably going to be able to get in Europe. And the clubs would probably be a little bit reluctant to pay what he's on in America. So he'd maybe even have to take like a pay cut potentially if he wanted to move back to Europe. Very good player though, Swiderski. I actually think that I had him. Do I still have him? I did have him, but I think I sold him recently in limited. Or I traded him recently. Yeah. Saw a few bits on Twitter, but couldn't say where exactly. Sorry. No, it's okay. Yeah, we were just looking at it as well now. It's a rumor. It could happen. It might not happen. From the sounds of it, he wants to make the move, but it's just a case of whether a deal can be done. If not, then he'll stay, right? And then he'll be a good option. Let's come off these here. I think another player that we should definitely talk about is Johnny Russell. And then I think also we should look at a couple of the stories here on the MLS Soccer, where we should try and look at forwards, like so any new forwards that have come into the league would be quite useful to do. Johnny Russell, we have to always talk about Johnny Russell. So Johnny Russell, he didn't have a good season last year, and this looks kind of rubbish, right? But Johnny Russell is actually a very, very good option in the MLS. He's only £61.23. I think this is so good for this type of player. Really do. If he can get back to the season that he had the season before, which was kind of like that, then he would be like a monster. So again, it kind of comes back to value. I wouldn't pay £70, £80 for Napoku. I would pay £61 for Johnny Russell. No. He is a little bit injury prone. He's not coming to the end of his career. No. Brian White was kind of popping off. If you haven't talked about him yet, I did. We just spent about 5 or so minutes talking about Brian White. Yeah. You think Kansas have better options though? Like who? Like who, Yono Skills? Like they've got Pulido, they've got Daniel Shalhoub. I think there's a new guy that they brought in recently as well. Let's have a little look here. Gadi Ginder's left. I think there was a new guy that they brought in. Let's go on here. He's the captain as well, no? He's the captain. So, like, Johnny Russell will play all the time. Who's the new guy that they brought in? Let's have a little look here. Was it this guy here? No, am I just making that up? I swear that Sporting KZ brought somebody in, like a new forward. I swear I saw that. Let's have a look here. Transfer tracker. Let's have a look to see if we can find anything. Yeah, Pulido we talked about. Pulido's amazing. Just want to see whether there was somebody else that's joined. Ah, this was him. Was this him? This was him, but I think this is more like a youngster. Yeah, this is like a youngster, an up-and-coming guy. Yeah, adding depth to the attack, yeah. So this guy is not going to replace the likes of Johnny Russell, Pulido, Daniel Shalhoub, but he's a nice option to kind of like a backup option. Don't know too much about this guy, actually. Alenis Vargas. He's only 20 years old. He's quite young. So a quick gander on here. Yeah, I think you are being a little bit unfair. In my opinion, Shalhoub, Pulido, Russell, think his age and injuries just put me off. Like, I have the same opinion, although in my opinion differs a little bit, where I'd put Pulido as number 1, I'd put Shalhoub as number 2, and Johnny Russell as number 3. But Johnny Russell's amazing. I'm telling you, Johnny Russell's amazing. And yeah, this guy is really young, isn't he? Well, he played in the MLS Next Pro for Kansas City too. So he basically played for the reserve team. And he got actually a healthy amount of goals and assists there. So it sounds like they've just almost promoted him up. Yeah, this was in December. He spent the season on a loan at Sporting KZ, the second team. Yeah, and he got 6 goals and 5 assists in 21. Probably quite an interesting one to keep an eye on. He's not going to be on Sorare data though. But yeah, 20-year-old with what looks like an interesting return. But yeah, not going to be replacing Johnny Russell or Alan Pulido. So yeah, I think Johnny Russell for £61. A lot of managers from a few years back used to run Johnny Russell in Champ America and in Sorare. And he actually was, if you didn't have Johnny Russell back then it was almost like you're going to struggle to kind of get the podium places in Sorare. It's changed a little bit now because more American forwards like have started to come through. But Johnny Russell's so good because his AA is so good as well. So Johnny Russell, definitely. Let's go back to the sports tracker. Okay, let's have a quick look to see. Tom Barlow has gone and joined Chicago Fire. I'm not a fan of Tom Barlow, so he's not one I really want to talk about. LA Galaxy have got Miguel Berry. Berry's okay, actually. Let's talk about Berry. Miguel Berry, if he's given an opportunity, he can usually do okay. Take it back here. When he starts, and he hasn't started very often, in the starts he's had, he's delivered, 6 goals, 1 assist. So LA Galaxy have just picked him up. It's going to be interesting to see whether he actually he plays enough for them. But he's at the moment, £15.91? Could be like a nice cheap option if you could pick him up for around the tenner. He might be given a bit of a run. And then he could actually start to deliver some good scoring, especially with an L15 and 26. Yeah, they did, yeah. That's such a good signing for them, getting Mickey Yamain. You can see it here as well. It's on the main screen, look. This is a big signing for them, getting this guy. I was actually, this kind of came out of the blue. I wasn't expecting this at all. Like, I didn't even know that they were looking at him, and then all of a sudden it was like, bang, we've just gone and we've got Mickey Yamain. Like, wow. Because this guy, as we all know, is a big cheat code in Sorare, and he'll probably even improve his scoring in the MLS because he's an attacking fullback, right? So he's now going to be playing in an attacking league. Really cool. Tommy Thompson's there. Who else is here that's worth maybe talking about as a forward? Okay, Yimi Chara's left. Interesting. Okay. Let's talk about Cincinnati, because we said earlier that we wanted to talk about them. I know that a lot of managers have a Cincinnati stack. Yeah, they will. I agree with you. That's going to be quite potent, isn't it? Chara and Saicedo to have as like a combo. Right, so we need to talk about Brandon Vazquez, because Brandon Vazquez is basically on, as far as I know, he's on the verge of leaving. I don't think it's been confirmed yet, has it? Brandon Vazquez. But like it's pretty much done, no? Bring this up. Here we go. 3 days ago. Yeah. So 3 days ago, they're finalizing the move. So yeah, 3 days ago, Pat Brennan, he's going to be moving to Monterrey in Liga MX. And this is such a, I'm going to say, right? This is a big loss for Cincinnati. I don't think he's going to do that good at Monterrey. I think this is going to be a bit of a flop for him as a move. I hope he can do well there. I don't think so. He's definitely that type of forward that would suit Monterrey and the Liga MX, because he's almost like an all-round forward where he's good in the air, he's good off the ball. He's not very quick, but he's good at kind of like reading the play and running in between the lines, and he can also do a little bit of hold-up play. So he's kind of got everything that he should be a good player in Liga MX, but I just have a feeling that he's going to flop. But I don't know who Cincinnati are looking at here to replace him. Cincinnati is also expected to replace Vasquez with a like attacking and goal scoring player, but they don't mention any names or anything here. Does anybody know in the chat who Cincinnati are like looking at to replace him? Because he's massive for them. So Brandon Vasquez, this will be a big blow to them because he's been their main source of goals with Acosta. I haven't heard any names that are being linked to Cincinnati to replace Vasquez at all. Replacement. What? Oh my God. Can you imagine? I mean, this would have been awful if this had happened. If Brentford had looked at bringing in Brandon Vasquez as a replacement for Ivan Toney. I mean, that is not a suitable replacement for Ivan Toney. It's not happening anymore because, of course, he's going to Monterrey. But this was the story that was happening, that Brentford were entering negotiations with him. And what were they thinking? He's very good, but he is not anywhere near the level of replacement that you need for an Ivan Toney. Wow. I don't know who they're looking for. Corey Baird? What? Corey Baird is the replacement for Brandon Vasquez? You've got to be kidding. Is that legit? Or like, how have you come up with that name? No way. Oh my God. Okay, let's bring up Corey Baird. I'm not a huge fan of this guy, to be honest with you. And I think that you can see maybe there's some truth to what you're saying there, because his price is now starting to rocket a little bit. So Corey Baird, to be fair, he's done okay. He's done actually pretty good for a Houston team that I don't think is that strong attacking wise. He got 11 goals and 5 assists in the past year. And if you look at his all-time record, it's okay. It's not amazing, but it's pretty good, given that he's been playing for Houston, LAFC, and Real Salt Lake. I just don't think that this is a good enough replacement, really. I'd be a little bit. I think if I was a Cincinnati fan, I'd be gutted if we replaced Brandon Vasquez for Corey Baird. You'd want to go out and get somebody a bit more heavy hitting, I think, personally. Well, the problem though, we need to look at that. We need to look at that because I don't think that Brandon Vasquez is he a designated player? Oh, wow. Because if he wasn't a designated player, no, because yeah. So they've still got Kubo as a designated player. They have Nwobodo, who they need to have as a designated player, and then they have, of course, Acosta, who the captain is a designated player. And then Vasquez is just a senior, right? Yeah, so Vasquez is just on a senior contract. Okay. Maybe that's why what they need to do is they need to sell, or they need to trade out Kubo. They need to get rid of him. I can't believe he's still a designated player. So if you probably don't know what I'm talking about, because he doesn't really play. He doesn't really play. And when he does play, he doesn't really do that good. Look, this is their designated player at the moment. So he's occupying a DP slot for Cincinnati. What they really need to do is they need to trade him out or sell him. I guess the problem that they have is that probably nobody wants him. And they'd have to pay him a lot to get him out of the DP to for him to leave the DP slot. So that they're probably a bit stuck. Because if you were going to sell Brandon Vasquez, then you would want to get like a DP forward. Maybe with the sale, though, of Brandon Vasquez, I mean, what numbers are we talking about here? We're talking about what? Yeah, Cincinnati will receive 7.5 million and up to 1 million in performance bonus. So they'd get 7.5 million. But with that money, they could use that money to pay Kubo out of his contract and like pay him down. Not pay him down, but like pay him so that he's then transferred to a lower contract, and then it frees up a DP slot so he can then go out and get a designated player forward. Tom Boga tweeted it recently. Baird is just going to make up the number. Cincy have a DP spot available, I think. Who's the DP? How do they have a DP spot? Because they can have, well, they've got, oh, do they have this guy here? What's the slot that's being freed up? Nwobodo can be bought down. Can he really? Why would they? I'm surprised. Why can they not buy Kubo down? Nwobodo's quite a recent signing for them as well. I'd be surprised if Nwobodo wanted to be bought down on his contract. What does designated player mean? Designated player basically means that they get paid more than anybody else in the club. And so they're not restricted. The club aren't restricted to pay them as part of the wage cap, because in the MLS, every club has like a wage cap, right? And so you have to make sure that you're paying the whole team under a wage cap, right? However, the designated player, you don't have to, they don't have to be paid under a wage cap. You can pay them anything. And it was a change that the MLS made to basically accommodate Beckham. So, you know, when Beckham went over to the MLS, his salary was so high that there was just no feasible way for him to join the MLS, but to fit under a wage cap. So they had to create basically this new rule, which was then every team can have, I think it's 4, isn't it? I actually thought it was 3. But they've got 4 here. They have 4 DPs. I thought it was 3, and then 1 kind of young DP. But let's just say it's 4 DP slots, right? So you get kind of like a set amount, and those guys can be paid no matter what, and it's not going to hit the wage budget. Yeah, I know what it means. Yeah, I know what it means, FIFA. But why would he want to be? Why would he want to be bought down? Why would Nwobodo, who's just joined as a DP, why would he want to be bought down from his DP contract? Why would they not try and buy Kubo down? Or this guy here, Bubentenza. Why would they not buy him down? Because Nwobodo is a DP. He's the type of player that should be a DP. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. I think if you're going to buy anybody down, you should try and buy Kubo down because he's not a DP anymore. You should buy this guy down for sure. I mean, for God's sake, why is he a DP? He might be the young DP. No, he's not even the young DP. How is he a DP? How is this guy a designated player? Didn't they literally extend Kubo's contract this year? Oh, that's nuts if they did. That's nuts. Let's have a little look. Let's see if we can find some news on it. That is absolutely nuts if they signed him to a new contract. Like, he's been with them for a while. I mean, if they did sign him to a new contract, but you're right. You're actually right. Look, this is on the 12th of December. Oh, my God. We've excited. What are they doing? What are they doing? Actually, funny enough, it doesn't actually say that they've re-signed him as a DP, but he's still listed as a DP, so they must have done. I mean, that's silly. So that must be the reason then why they can't do it. I just can't believe that they've kept him as a DP. Really can't. Feel like they could have freed up that spot, but anyways, yeah. They have lost two of their big forwards in back-to-back windows, Brenner and now Vasquez. Yeah, they have. They have, but they've also they're making a lot of money from it, right? Which is like why they're happy to do it. Oh, okay. You think it has to do with the transfer fee they paid, not the expert on the rules of buying down a contract? Interesting. Yeah, so he's still a DP then, and you guys, as who said it actually? Tisdale. Tisdale said that they've extended his contract. We've just seen that they have, and if he remains a DP, then there's only going to be a handful of players that will then also be a DP that you can then look at. I think it'd be a shame for Nwobodo if he loses the DP slot, because how can Nwobodo not be a DP, but Kubo remains a DP when he just hardly ever plays? And Nwobodo's actually been a far better player. Like this guy, for example, shouldn't be. Why is this guy a DP as well? Yeah, I mean, this is crazy, I think. This is crazy. I mean, they almost like brought him in to kind of like almost replace not Brandon Vasquez, sorry, to replace Brenner. But they haven't really got the best out of him. There might be a clause in the contract as well that says you can't buy down a DP within a certain time frame, so that then they remain a DP guaranteed for a while, right? It's like someone like this guy who really only just joined in the summer probably can't have his contract brought down from a DP because it's too soon. Yeah, okay. They're doing some fishy stuff. Moles, Robertson isn't a DP now, but think counts as one next year. No way they can sign him with all the European interest without a DP wage. Yeah. There does seem to be a lot of clever contract signing that they're doing. I mean, if you look at Inter Miami, they've got Messi's a DP. In fact, yeah, let's go on Inter Miami right now again. Because, well, Messi technically isn't a DP, right? But he has some weird contract, doesn't he, with the MLS, that he takes just like huge big shares from Apple, from the television rights or whatever. Oh, their roster's a bit weird. Why have they done it like this here? Okay, here we go. Oh, he is a designated player. Fair enough. But I think even as a designated player, they couldn't afford to still pay him like a good DP wage, so they had to throw in a few extras, didn't they? Why can't we see all the team together? Like, I don't like it like this. It's a little bit rubbish, actually, because you can't see all the players. Like, you can't see who's the DP and who's not. Jordi Alba must be a DP as well, though. He's not. Jordi Alba's not a DP. Robert Taylor? No. Busquets has to be. Yeah, Busquets is the DP as well. Who's the other ones? Surely not Yedlin. This is why it's rubbish to kind of see it like this here. You almost want to see it as a list, really. Probably, it's not these guys down here. It's not going to be Robbie Robinson, surely. It's going to be this guy here. He's the under 22 initiative. I don't know who it's not Campana, surely. No, I don't know who. Oh, it is. Okay, Campana's the young designated player. Okay. They probably also had Martinez, didn't they? Before they got rid of Martinez as a designated player. Yeah. All right, back in a second. Right, we're back again. Inter Miami / roster is the one you wanted. Let me throw it back in. Ah, okay. Yeah, so we're on the slightly different page. We almost need to just take away that club, don't we? Take away the club. And then do, where's the / gone? Oh, come on. There we go. Yeah, that's what we wanted. Yeah, nice one. Yeah, we wanted this so we could easily see, like, at a glance, who's the DP and who's not. So, yeah, it was like Messi, Campana, or Gregor. Gregor was the other DP. Okay. Cool. You can see all the wages here too, but it doesn't say who's a DP. That's quite useful. Yeah, that's really useful. Let's bring that up as well. Nice one for that FIFA. Yeah, this is the MLS Players Association, isn't it? Really cool. Who's the most? Yeah, Lionel Messi, of course, right? Then Insigne. What is going on with Insigne? Benteke is on quite a bit too. There's Timo Pooky. Josef Martinez has left now, isn't he, into Miami? Josef Martinez is a good one. We should talk about Josef Martinez because I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong here, I don't think his contract got extended. I think his contract got extended. Here we go. Yeah, look. He won't return to Inter Miami for the 2024 season. He's a good player, Josef Martinez. He's a free agent at the moment. How much is Josef Martinez right now? Oh my God. Wow. That's incredible. I don't know where this guy is going. But if I was looking for an America forward, I'd be taking a hard look at Josef Martinez for £47.27. I mean, I'd have to do some research as well to understand, is he going to stay in the MLS? Is he going to go back to Venezuela, for example? Because if he went back to Venezuela, that'd be horrible, which I don't think he'd do. But if he moved to another club that is covered by Sorare, then he would be amazing because he's a very good goal scorer. Very good player. Wow. So has anybody got him? Does anybody know what's going on with Josef Martinez here at all? We can have a little look as well, but it's not been on my things to do to look at Josef Martinez really. Into Miami. Someone's saying that they're looking at Josef Martinez Inter Miami cards and having no desire to buy them. For me, I have a desire to buy him. I have a big desire to buy him. This is on January the 5th. This guy is saying Toronto FC should sign Martinez. I could actually, to be fair, I could imagine Martinez going to somewhere like Toronto. What's this here? Surely he's not going to go to River. Josef Martinez from Inter Miami was offered to River. Wow. Was he really? I don't think that would have been a good move for him, really. Yeah, there's a lot of talk about that as well. It was offered. I think River have already got enough good players there. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not surprised they said no. His wage demands would be quite high. What's this saying here? Okay. Yeah. Thumbs down due to its high cost, as you say. We are indeed, yeah. We're going through a few right now. I think Josef Martinez, though, honestly, for £47 is really cheap. I mean, 3 days ago, he was selling for around 33, then 26 4 days ago. I think this is really good. And if I was looking to pick up an America forward, knowing that he's a free agent and that there's a little bit of a risk to it, I think the upside does outweigh the risk here because he should go to a club that's covered and he should be a starter again. Yeah, he was brilliant. He was really brilliant at Atlanta. He's actually just really good. I think the annoying thing is that when he was kind of at Inter Miami, I think a lot of people forget this, but when he was at Inter Miami, he was playing under Phil Neville, right? And nobody was doing good under Phil Neville. He was struggling to score. The whole team was struggling to play well. And then he was getting dropped as well. If you look at Inter Miami, here we go. Like, this essentially was just rubbish for him. And then they mixed it up, and then his scoring improved a little bit. He's just very good. You bought Baird and Zardis Rare already. But yeah, Baird, we were just talking about, that potentially Cincinnati are currently looking at him to replace Brandon Vasquez, but I'm not really a big fan of him. I think he's okay. I think you put him in a better team, he should score better, right? Zardis is good. Zardis is getting on a little bit now. Yeah, Zardis is decent. He's getting on. How much did you pick up Zardis for? Yeah, the whole team was a joke. Like, Inter Miami used to be considered the joke of the MLS because they were so bad. They were like the whipping boys, basically. 19 euros for him. Wow. That's pretty good. That's pretty good, actually. And you bought Care for 18, hope he might start too. One forward that I always like and I always talk about is Jeremy Ebibisi. Jeremy Ebibisi is too expensive. Like, I like this guy a lot, and I loved him when he was at Portland. I even had his rare card, I think, at one point. Let's go back. You can see here, look. I bought his rare card for £161 back in 2022, and then I sold him for 357, so I made a nice, tidy bit of profit on him. I could have waited, technically, and then sold him for, like, that, you know, like, for the start of the season, but I was just not very convinced that with Sorare, you know, like, if you get these windows of opportunities, they can close on you quite quickly. But Jeremy Ebibisi for 113, I've got to be honest with you, even though I really like this guy, I don't think that this scoring is £113 of value. I would much prefer to pick up a Timo Pooky for, what was he, like £80 or something, Timo Pooky, £90, than I would pick up an Ebibisi. Now, Ebibisi is good. He's not super prolific, and so he will just kind of disappear, and he does do it, which is why, for me, he's too expensive. My MLS cards are really making profit right now. Kept all my cards from last season. That's the way to do it, man. Do you have an MLS rare goalkeeper? No, and I won't get one. No, I was going to get one. I'm not going to get one. MLS starts on the 22nd of February. Let's actually... let's go to Scout, player rankings here, and then let's specifically look at the MLS so we can look at the who were some of the best performing forwards from last season in the MLS, right? Minimum games played over the last 15. 7's fine. Let's do that. Yeah, bought Fry for 150. Is now at 250. Yeah. And you bought Steve Clark for 119. That's really good. That is good. I'm not planning on buying, like my defense is not going to be MLS. My defense is going to be South America. And then my midfield and attack is probably going to be the MLS. That's the way I usually do it. Like MLS is fine because when you buy, for example, any MLS player, you don't have to worry about relegation. But when it comes to trying to get more points from your goalkeepers and your defenders, then you shouldn't really target defenders and goalkeepers from the MLS. It's like probably the worst league to target for clean sheets because they don't really exist in the MLS. So South American leagues like not America, like Argentina, Peru, you've got Brazil, you've got even like Ecuador, like those types of leagues will tend to see less goals being scored. And so you get a higher chance for clean sheets. So that's what I'm going to be doing anyway. Cucho Hernandez was the number 1 forward, Diego Rossi. Let's have a little look here to see who offers really good value. Boanga at £144 is definitely really good value here. Ecuadorian goalkeepers are the best in the game according to FIFA. I don't think they're the best in the game, but they are some of the best in the game. They're not the best in the game. You're right. You're right. They're very good though. Yeah, Boanga's got that threat, hasn't he? That he could move. If he doesn't move, this is going to look really good value for him. It's going to look really cheap. Because if he was to stay, then you know what you're getting with him. You're getting like a cheat code. What's the chance of him going? Does anybody have any information about Boanga? Whether he's, what's the percentage of him going to a league that's not covered by Sorare? Let's type Saudi in as well. Shouldn't laugh at that because it's really horrible for the woman judge, but someone's saying if I see Dennis Boanga like boarding a plane to Saudi Arabia, he's going to jump on him, stop him. This from January the 3rd, yeah. No real confirmation of a potential transfer, but rumors are flying out there. And it says that Boanga wants the move. Yeah, he would prefer to move to the Saudi Pro League. There's also a League One club looking at him. He wants the big money move, doesn't he? So there's a little bit of a risk associated with him. This is one of those times of the year where you have to decide whether you take the gamble or not. And you have to do lots of research as well. But I remember the same thing with Messi, right? Everyone was saying Messi's going to move to Saudi Arabia. Messi's going to move to a non-covered league. And so the ones that did take the gamble on Messi and picked him up really cheap were then laughing when he then got the moves to Inter Miami. And so this is always the thing in the transfer window is that you should only take the gamble if you are actually prepared to lose this money, or not lose it, but like not recoup it. So you're £177 in the market right now. If that isn't a lot to you, or if you feel like the upside outweighs the potential for his card to completely decrease, then you can do it. But for probably a lot of people, that's a lot of money, right? £177 is a lot on the rare when you're not sure if he's actually going to be covered next season. And if he isn't, then that 177 is then going to quickly drop down to under 100 and probably a lot lower than that. But if he doesn't end up going and he ends up staying in the MLS, or if he ends up going to a European club like in League One, then actually it'd be probably quite a good gamble that pays off for you. Because the level of scoring that you get from him is silly, isn't it? It's silly what you get from him. And he's an international as well. So is anybody thinking about getting him at all? Like, he's not the type of player for me, even though I think that he's great. But is anybody actually in that situation right now where they're debating whether they're going to go and buy him or not? I wish I had the money, but no, his autographed card is up for sale too. Is it really? Let's have a look. Oh, it is as well, isn't it? £1,233. That's such a nice looking card, isn't it? Oh, that's so cool. God, look. This guy won it as a reward. DB20, this is Boanga, isn't it? Yeah, that is Boanga. That's actually the player who then gets it, from Sorare. And then he sold it. He sold it for £216. What? That seems too cheap, doesn't it? Far too cheap. Like this guy here, Raf, got his card for £216. That is unbelievable. There's been some really strange trades, isn't there? Like a month ago, Sorare Lems sent Boanga the signed autographed card of Boanga. He sent it to Raf. No, sorry, Raf sends Boanga to. But why would Raf send the Boanga autographed rare card for £41.39 and a Riku Yamain, who's now only worth about £25? And to be honest with you, look, it's not even. What's he done there? What on earth is that about? No? Am I looking at this wrong? How does that trade make sense at all? I mean, it's fantastic for Raf. It's fantastic for Sorare Lems. I don't understand what Raf's doing though. That doesn't seem like a good trade at all. And this isn't even that long ago. This was what? When did this happen? A month ago. Like, you basically traded this type of player that's hitting like mad scores for a really shit player and £41. Very, very weird. Very weird. Riku Yaman. What? That's weird. That's so weird. Hello to Ivan_Sorare as well. Something's very fishy there, for sure. Because there's no way that you trade this player, and not just the rare card, but the rare signed autograph. The card that was autographed by the player, you send that card in exchange for this card and £40. And this is like not a good player. Wow. Weird. Very strange. Who else we got on the list here? We haven't really talked about Giacomakis, sorry. Tyler Boyd's on here. I'm not talking about Tyler Boyd. I don't think Tyler Boyd's that good at all. Alan Valesco's great though. Double accounting. Yeah, I think so. Some some very strange accounting happening there. Where's Boyd gone? Where's Tyler Boyd gone? Like, I wouldn't want to talk about him anyway because I don't think he's that good. Where's he gone? Has he gone to Nashville? Is he really? Wow. Let's throw that in here. Tyler Boyd. There we go, yeah. Oh, Tyler Boyd playing for Nashville. I don't think that's a good option for them. I mean, it's probably good for Tyler Boyd. I just don't think he's that good, really. Like, he done a lot better towards the back end of last season for LA Galaxy. He's got an okay amount of goals, but he's played 80 or so games there. He has started in 67 and he's only got 15 goals. It's such a strange one to hear that Nashville have gone and picked up Tyler Boyd. So what are they thinking then? It's going to be Tyler Boyd and Sam Surridge up front. That could work, actually. There could be a combo that works, but yeah, how much is he? He's £84. Who honestly, who's paying that for Tyler Boyd? Yeah, who's paying that? Velasco, I expect there to be some transfer rumors about Velasco because he's like incredible. I think everyone we talk about is going to have some rumors attached to them. Alan Velasco, there's a lot of, oh my God. Alan Velasco is £74. Yeah, you're right. He has torn his, that's why he's so cheap, isn't he? He's like £88 right now. Wow. When's he out until? It's probably out for a long while still, no? It's actually horrible to say, but it's actually kind of a good thing that he has a long-term injury like this because his price is going to continue to come down. Yeah. It's actually remained quite stable. It has dropped a little bit. If you could get an Alan Velasco for around £60 or less, then that would be incredible. He's out until the summer. That's actually not too long. So he misses basically half the season of the MLS and then he'll be back for the second half. I think that's really worth keeping an eye on because if Alan Velasco does get really cheap, then, you know, you really should look at him because he's incredible when he plays. Who else have we got on this list here that's quite good value? We've already talked about Timo Pukki, Alan Pulido, we've talked about Messi, we've talked about, of course, Brian White, Johnny Russell, we've talked about G. Kumakis, we have kind of talked about, but probably not to the level that we should because he actually done very well last year. He kind of went off the boil for a little bit, but generally speaking, he done quite well. Like 19 goals in 26 games or starts is fantastic. And he's playing for a team as well that's always attacking. They're always involved in high-scoring games. So he's a very, very good one. Again, it's another forward that's like over £100. It's closer to 150. And for me personally, I just don't think you need to spend that on a forward. But at the same time, it's not bad. It's actually okay. I think my hesitation with kind of talking about player prices and saying that Giacomakis is actually good value is that we've done that in the past before where we've kind of said, oh, this player is really cheap. You know, this player is amazing. But then in Sorare, fortunately, you know, their prices can just keep tumbling, keep going down. So this might look really cheap. And I think it actually is okay because in theory, his price should increase really as we get closer to the start of the new season. But this market's so difficult. But he is kind of climbing a little bit, but also not too much, right? So if anything, if he's not climbing that much, then he could also just drop. You'd like to think he wouldn't drop more, but I wouldn't put anything past this market we're seeing in Sorare. The game economy is so fucked. That yeah, anything could happen. I think he's a good option though. Do you have any idea if Tim Media will be a starter? Right. So I saw somebody that posted that they picked up a super rare Tim Media. I wouldn't go anywhere near Tim Media. I'm not lying. I wouldn't go anywhere near Tim Media. Tim Media is technically he was the starter for Sporting KZ last season. I don't trust Tim Melia to be the starter next season. And the other thing as well is that Tim is very injury prone. He struggles with injuries all the time now. He's another one like Brad Guzan where I just wouldn't expect him to play the whole season. And so what you're almost doing is if you're looking at Tim Melia, I think you're playing with fire because you're targeting or you're thinking about a player that first of all is 37, reaching the end of his career. Second of all, struggling with injuries. And so he struggles with injuries so much that if he is out for an extended period of time and then the replacement goalkeeper comes in and does a really good job, then he's going to struggle to win his place back, right? So I wouldn't look at him at all. I think it was Pio Berna, the Italian expert of MLS, or he reposted it. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was him. I was really surprised by that. I wouldn't go near Tim Melia at all. And there's a few other reasons why I wouldn't go near Tim Melia. The other reason is that like you're not even going to get good levels of scoring out of him because Sporting KZ, the way they play, they don't keep clean sheets. Look, all their games are over 2.5, and they're always usually both teams to score. So I don't think it's on so many levels. I just don't think it makes sense at all. I think the only reason why Tim Melia is probably the name that is on the lips of so many managers is because he's so cheap, right? Because he's like £111 on the market right now, which, you know, if you think for a starting goalkeeper, that is pretty good. But there are just so many reasons why that is not good for £111. And if anything, you'd probably be better off finding an additional £40 or £50 to then get a much more solid starter who's less injury prone, that's playing for a team that can keep more clean sheets. Probably Steve Clark, for example, is not much more expensive than Melia. Yeah, Steve Clark is like about £80 more, right? But I think it's £80 that's better spent. As in, it's worth finding the extra £80 to get a Steve Clark than it is to just try and get a Tim Melia for £111 because there's far too much risk associated with a Tim Melia and there's far less risk associated with a Steve Clark. And there's far better scoring with a Steve Clark as well. Yeah, exactly. He's not like Clark. He's not like Stefan Fry. Fry's another one. You know, if you're going to look at a 37-year-old, you look at Stefan Fry as well, don't you? Stefan Fry's playing for a really good team. His scoring's really good. He is more expensive, but that is going to give you the peace of mind. If you spend £111 on a Tim Melia, you could easily be in a position this season where Tim Melia is then worth like £50 or £40 because he's lost his place or he's then injured for like most of the season. And then you're going to be thinking to yourself, why did I pick up a Tim Melia when there was all that risk that I knew beforehand? So I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't go anywhere near him. His super rare is kind of cheap, but I just wouldn't do it. To be honest with you. Will you do a South America scouting stream at some point? We will. We have a lot of scouting streams that we need to do. Like this one, which is, we're talking about a goalkeeper now. This should technically be just about forwards, but there's almost so many players and there's not enough time to go through them, but we will try and do one. I also would go for Fry. He's a great goalkeeper, even if with this hype, I'm not buying it. Yeah. Like, also the same for, just, you know, before we keep going through, like Brad Guzan, the amount of times I keep getting asked about Brad Guzan. And Brad Guzan's like, what, £75 at the moment, £38 is his average. I look at Brad Guzan, I look at Tim Melia exactly the same. Too much risk, and the downside actually outweighs the upside. So I wouldn't even do it at all. Julian Carranza, Kamungo. I'm not a big fan of Kamungo. I know that he was mentioned in the chat by you guys, and he's done okay. I wouldn't really look at him, if I'm honest with you. He is kind of cheap, though. There's Ebibisi, who I was talking about. I think Ebibisi's too expensive. Karol Swiderski is very cheap. And Kyle Swiderski, even though we know that there's a little bit of a risk with him because he wants to move to Europe, I actually think this is a really good price for Kyle Swiderski. So, yeah, I'd be taking a hard look at him. Benteke, Paul Areola at £50 is excellent. Paul Areola's very good for £50. He struggled with injuries last season. And then he came back and he was a little bit hit and miss and whatnot. But if he can stay fit, he's playing in a Dallas team where he's got some good players around him. And so he will get involved in decisives. So Paul Areola is fantastic. Where have you guys gone? Who's still here? Who do you think is a good forward to target for the MLS guys next season? Maybe you guys have already bought some forwards. Who would you go and buy for an MLS team next season? Vargas from Charlotte, maybe. All right, let's look at Vargas because I'm not really a fan of Vargas, if I'm honest with you. He is kind of cheap though, isn't he? £51, 59. Done very well towards the back end of last season. Have you bought him? Tom, is this a player that you've bought yourself, or are you looking at him for next season? Definitely showing some promise, isn't he? You've bought him, have you? How much did you, if you don't mind me asking, how much did you pick him up for? Because his average is around 50. His floor's much more higher than that. Was you able to get this guy for like £50 or less at all? Suarez is 230 or something, 260. Far too high. Yeah, it's far too high. We talked about him earlier. We were comparing the Inter Miami stack with like the Inter Miami forward combo of Messi and Suarez with Cucho Hernandez and Diego Rossi. And Diego Rossi and Hernandez would set you back in the rare around £700, £800, right, for those two. And actually, it was like £700 actually. And then for Suarez and Messi in the rare, it would cost you £1,000. And we were like, well, I would actually pick the Rossi and Hernandez combo rather than the Suarez and the Messi combo. So I think you get the same level of scoring, but for £300 better off, right? You bought Anderson Julio. Anderson Julio, is he still playing for Real Salt Lake? Or has he moved as well? I paid £63 on auction, so a bit higher than that, but he's a very exciting player from what I've seen. Fair enough, man. The good thing with that player is that he is actually quite cheap. So you've got that nice longevity. Yeah. Suarez does have really bad knees, doesn't he? That's what I don't understand in a way, is that you're almost just paying the hype price, aren't you? You're paying the hype price that you have a Suarez and a Messi reunion. And so it's almost like you're thinking, people are thinking, okay, it's going to be another, like what it was like at Barcelona. But he's 36 now, and he does struggle with injuries, for sure. So you bought this guy here. Why did you buy this guy? So Nico, why did you pick up this guy? Like, what's the thinking as to why you bought this guy? For next season as a forward. Under 23 as well. See what he does next year. Going with a bit of a Charlotte theme for next year. I do like Charlotte. I think they're so exciting to watch. They're not very good defensively, but attacking wise, they're really fun. I actually had, until recently, I had a Ben Bender rare card. And I sold it. And in a way, I don't really know why I sold him. But he's so cheap still anyway, I could go and buy him again. Yeah, look, I sold him back in August for £12.85, and he's not really that much more expensive. So I could always just go and get him again. Can't do something wrong for €10 and looks like he will start. Does it look like he will start? I'm not so sure. I don't think so. I hope for you that he does start. If you picked him up for €10, then, as you say, it's difficult to go wrong. But I wouldn't be banking on him starting, to be honest with you. Yeah, they sold Diego Rubio, didn't they? They sold Rubio, no? Not Rubio. They sold, yeah, they did sell Rubio, right? I think I saw that. Let's have a little look. Where's he at? Savarino too. Did they really? Let's have a quick look then, because I haven't really seen the ins and outs for Real Salt Lake. Let's have a little look. You'll be buying Bender as well at that price for sure. Add to the collection bonus. Yeah, we're going to talk about Asprilla in a minute because he's come up quite a few times now. We do need to talk about him. I'm talking about somebody else here, aren't I? I'm talking about Diego Rubio, but he doesn't play for them. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that might have been the guy I was mentioning. I was trying to mention Rubio Rubin. Where's he gone? Let's have a look. Is he the guy I was thinking of? Let's go back to the transfer tracker. The only thing with the transfer tracker is that I almost wish that it was organized a bit better. Where we at? Let's go to the next one. Okay, Jada O'Brien's been picked up as well. Quintero. Rubio Rubin went to Quintero. Did he really? He didn't do that good, really, did he, Rubin? In my opinion. It's probably a good thing that he moved on. Let's have a look at Asprilla. Let's go on to Portland. Because he has been spoken about a lot. There's actually a player at Portland that I like, and he wasn't really playing a lot last season. And it was, where's he gone? Where is he? Has he left now? Where's he gone? Oh, Frank Bolly's left. Where's Frank Bolly gone? This is the guy that I quite like. Okay. So he went to Atletico de San Luis, did he? It didn't really work out for Frank Bolly, but he's actually quite good. I didn't realize that he left. He only joined a few days ago. Okay. Interesting. Wow, that's good. £22 at the moment. That's decent. That's really decent. It's a good price, that. Yeah, I agree. Something to sort it by position or team, definitely. If they had this page where you could filter and sort, it'd be a lot easier, right? Rather than having to trawl through like just all these big articles. You're right. There should be a way where you can kind of sort through it. I mean, yeah, I don't want to complain too much because it's still a fantastic source, but it's a little bit clunky to go through. What's FIFA given us here? Yeah, some of it's up to date though, isn't it? Like, not all of it looks up to date, but like some of it looks pretty good. Let's go down here. Yeah, for example, Robinson's missing here, isn't he? It's not bad though. It's still a little bit clunky, isn't it? It's not that great to view. But yeah, there's another link in the chat, guys. Jordan Morris is quite good for £78. There's Diego Rubio. Right, what's going on with him? Because I thought that he had actually left. If he hasn't left Colorado, then and if he's going to start more, he could be a good option because he's actually decent when he starts. But I just thought that he had left. I think Colorado are going to be a really good team to look at next season. Okay, so Diego Rubio's not there. Yeah, he has left, right? So I was correct. Where's he gone? He's just, okay, he's a free agent then. Interesting. He has struggled with injuries a little bit in the past, this guy, which is why when you look at him, he has all these kind of DMPs, right? But if he can avoid injuries, and he's actually very good. If you look at the starts that he has here, that's what he does in his starts. And he's a free agent right now. He's £97 on the market. That's too much, really. You definitely don't want to spend £97 on him. But like 9 hours ago, he was picked up for £55. 20 hours ago, 53. That's a bit better. Anyone who was able to pick him up for £40, I think, has done really well here. I have no idea where he's going, but if he went back to Chile, he'd be covered. If he goes to Liga MX, he'd be covered. Does anybody own this guy? Now he's a free agent. I think he's worth keeping an eye on. He was looking at him, but a bit expensive. Yeah, I think so too. Right, what other names can you guys give me that we can look at? You tell me. You tell me what forwards you think are worth looking at for the MLS. All right, cool. Let's do something a little bit different. This is something that I tend to do myself when I'm looking to scout for a league and find players for the new season. Okay, let's do that. I'm actually interested in finding someone who's under £50. So let's do 59. Let's do this actually. Yeah, one of you guys mentioned about Carlos Vela, right? So what's the situation with him? Because he's been let go on a free, but where's he going? Because he's actually really cheap at the moment, Carlos Vela. Oh wow, 13 hours ago, he's gone to Cerezo in Japan. Is that true? No, that's not true, is it? I don't think that's actually true. We can look at it now. I don't think so. Because we were just looking at it then, and this guy, this J League insider for Brazil, had then put like a thread together. And look, he's got like David De Gea. So I think this is more like him thinking who would be good to go for these teams. Because De Gea is not. We would have heard about that. Douglas Costa. Yeah, I think this is what he would like to see happen rather than it actually happening. To be fair, though, it's not a bad fantasy. Seeing him there would be quite cool. As a free agent, I think he's very cheap though. Like I'd be tempted to pick him up, honestly, if I could get him for under £40. Carlos Vela. Who else we got in this list? There's Paul Ariola, who I think is great. There's Kervin Vargas, who we talked about before. We haven't really talked about Esprilla. I'm not a fan of Esprilla. I'm not a fan of Esprilla. I had Esprilla before. The problem with Esprilla is that he doesn't play consistently. You never know when he's going to be on the bench or whether he's going to start. When he has a start, he does quite well, but you never know when he just doesn't have a proper run in the team. I don't think that's going to change. It hasn't changed since he's been there. It's always been like that pretty much. So, yeah, I don't think so. Hello to Timbo as well. How you doing, man? Timbo. This is the youngster, isn't it? Who they've also signed one for the future. got a bit of a run, but now Suarez is there. I don't think so. Well, that being said, he's been played more as a, excuse me, as a centre-back. Come up as a forward. He doesn't have a forward card, does he? Got a defender card, isn't he? Yeah. What's he coming up doing as a forward? There's a Poku. No, I'm not a fan of a Poku. Calvin Harris, no. Josef Martinez, Christian Ramirez, and Cade Cowell. What's happening with Raul Ruiz Diaz? Ruiz Diaz is excellent, but Ruiz Diaz, did he... I think he has a long-term contract, doesn't he, until 2024, which is what it says here. I think he needs a move. Yeah, they've only got 2 forwards, haven't they? Jordan Morris and Raul Ruiz Diaz. And for a lot of the season, Seattle Sounders weren't really playing him. That can't really continue. He's also struggled with injuries as well. A lot. He's very injury prone. This was a great period for him where he didn't have many injuries and he was just smashing it. But you can see over the last, I'd say 2 years or so, he spent a hell of a lot of time on the injury table. Who's a DP? I think, yeah, Raul Ruiz Diaz is a DP, yeah. Dejan, this guy here is actually quite good. The problem with him is that he's been quite inconsistent. There's a big potential for this guy. He has shown in the past he can do really good. Last season, it was very hit and miss because he was in and out of the team too much. If he can bed down a starting spot, then he'd be great. He's still an under-23 player. He used to be really expensive, actually, Dejan. Go back. Yeah, he used to be around £300. That's back in January. I've heard a rumour that Cade Cowell could be getting a transfer, but it was only a rumour. Big fan of him as well. Look, who could leave? 10 players who could leave the MLS this winter. It's come up in our search here. Almeida, Barriol, Boanga, Carranza, Yimichara's gone, Swiderski, Brandon Vazquez. Where's and then Cade Cowell. But it's more saying he's a homegrown to watch, isn't it? Yeah, we're just looking at that now. Look. Yeah, reports claim that he's planning a return to Real Sociedad, but it's a bit of a guessing game at the moment, isn't it? I think he's a good price, though, on Sorare. Yeah, and Cade Cowell, yeah. He's been linked to Liga MX. I really don't want him to go to the Liga MX, to be honest with you. I don't think that would be a good move for him at all. I think he'd be better off staying in the MLS rather than going to the Liga MX, to be honest. How much is Cade? £47.93. This is quite a frustrating player for us to talk about because he's actually brilliant. He's got really low average scores, which makes him really attractive for pretty much every game mode in Sorare. He's still under 23 until 2028. Problem with him is that he hasn't quite fulfilled his potential yet, and he's just shown glimpses of brilliance. He doesn't really have much AA at all, and he hasn't really been able to bed down a starting, like an established starting spot at San Jose Earthquakes. So he's the type of player that you basically pick up when you can, when he's cheap, and then you just wait until he finally starts to break through and like locks down a starting spot somewhere, and then he can go on to big things. But at the moment, it's a bit tricky because we're all kind of waiting for him to have that breakthrough season. And if he ends up leaving San Jose Earthquakes and goes to like a Liga MX club, he could have that breakthrough season. Because if he was going to move, you'd have to say he'd move to become a starter somewhere. Otherwise, what's the point, right? There's no point him moving to not become a starter. So probably the rumors of him moving are quite good, because then this won't happen, where a lot of his scoring will be basically sub points. He's started 57 and he's come off the bench in 57, and you wouldn't get that if he made a move. You don't think Cade Cowell will reach his hyped potential, in my opinion? Why not? I think he will. I think the problem with him, with a lot of youngsters, is that if you're not starting regularly, then it affects your development and it affects your confidence, right? He needs regular starts. If he can start regularly, his confidence will improve, and then he will start to be a bit more creative and a bit more adventurous with how he plays football as well. If you look at the last, I don't know, 2 years or so, he's not really started enough. Look, he has, 4 or 5 games there. He actually does pretty good. Then he has 3 games here. He does pretty good again. He had a game here, done good. Loads of sub appearances. He has a few starts here, does really good. He has a few starts here, does really good. Then he's back on the bench again. He's not starting enough. So it's really, for me, I think that he has a lot of potential that can be fulfilled, but he needs to start. This is the big problem with a 20-year-old. He's not starting anywhere near what he needs to. And even in the starts that he's getting, look, 84 minutes here, 71, 73, 45, 71, 63 here, 68 here, 57. He needs to start regularly and have a run of like 20 games in a row where he started every single game and he's played 90 minutes. If he does that, then I think that he will be showing his true potential. So I think he's a big player still. Yeah, Cole Bassett I'd love to go for as well. The thing with Cole Bassett and Cade Cowell, the difference is that obviously Cole Bassett is a midfielder. Now, Cade Cowell, he has midfielder and forward cards, but you really want to have the forward card from Cade Cowell. You don't want to have the midfielder card. Yeah, like Cole Bassett, definitely, I'm with you on that. Like this guy here, I actually would love to get him. I am thinking about getting him. But with, Cade Cowell, you don't want to get any card other than the forward card. He has some midfielder cards, I think. Like, really, does he have some midfielder cards? I thought he actually had some midfielder cards in rare from way back. In fact, I'm sure he does, because I think I saw them a long time ago. But you really want to just get the forward card from him. Like, his midfielder card sucks because he's then getting all the points deductions. So, yeah, not really a fair comparison between Cole Bassett and Cade Cowell, but Cole Bassett's brilliant as well. Who else we got here? Interesting. Christian Ramirez, I like a lot. He didn't really start as much as what I wanted him to. He had a brief period where he was starting and he was doing really well, but then he returned back to the bench again. I think he's a good option, though, like a cheap option to pick up that could work out for you. Who else? Who else do we like as forwards, guys? Russell Rowe. Have you got him, the Don? Yeah, I agree with you on that, FIFA. I like Capetti too. I thought he'd have a better first season in the MLS, but he also didn't get enough starts, really. Who's like the cheapest here? Campana. Well, not really, actually, because there's no floor price for him. Casper needs a move, but I don't think he's going to get one. He really needs a move. Why are Prem cars going to tank? They're going to tank because when the Premier League Winter Special ends, everyone's going to dump their cards, basically. And so there's going to be a sell-off, and it's going to trigger a crash of the prices. Yeah, Mulato's okay. He's not one for me, but he's actually one to keep an eye on, I think. Yeah. How much did Chicago Fire? Okay, up to 400,000 general allocation money. Interesting, because now that Chicago Fire have basically signed Tom Barlow, and I don't like Tom Barlow, by the way, but now that they've signed Tom Barlow, I think it just yeah, look. So Barlow joins Koutsias and Kaspar, and the club pursues a DP number 9 this winter. So Casper needs to kind of move on because I don't think he's going to get much game time. I mentioned this guy before, and I picked up his limited, I think, for like 60p or something, at 39p, because you can't go wrong for that. His rare is a little bit too expensive for me, but he would be the type of player that I would pick up. You can see here 20 days ago, someone got him for £4.49. That would have been the time to get him for like £4, because you really can't go wrong. He's actually pretty good. Will they do another league special? They probably will. I think they're doing. Aren't they doing a Bundesliga and a La Liga one, or is that finished now? I think that finished, didn't it? Yeah, they probably will. But yeah, the Premier League cards are going to tank. Dominic Badgie, no. There's Tom Barlow, who we were just talking about. How much is Tom Barlow? Wow. Tom Barlow at £24, I have to be honest with you, is actually quite good. I'm not really a big fan of this guy, but for £24 for a forward that's likely going to get more starts now, because that's the big problem with Tom Barlow. He wasn't starting enough at New York Red Bulls, you know? He was in and out of the team. He gets a bit more starts under his belt at Chicago, then he could easily justify £24. So this is the thing. When we're talking about players, I usually say players, in my opinion, are either not good, either they're good or they're not good. Tom Barlow, for me, is not really a good forward, but a Tom Barlow at £24.29, he's actually then attractive for me to think I would probably pick him up. Because then it's very difficult to not get the return financially, but also scoring-wise against that price point. It's very difficult to not get a good return there. If Tom Barlow was like £70, £80, I'd be saying, forget it. Absolutely not. But for £24, Tom Barlow, that's pretty good. That's very good, actually. And same kind of like with Ruud Diaz. Calvin Harris is a big no. Ty Barabo's actually good, but I don't see how, I don't understand this move still from Ty Barabo, and I don't understand why Philadelphia Union went out and got him, because they didn't use him at all. And I don't think they're going to use him at all this season. Not really. They still have Michael Ura. To my knowledge, they still have Carranza, right? Even though we saw that Carranza could be one of the players that could be on his way out. See, look, you can go down here and you can see that Carranza. So they're kind of saying that if Carranza leaves, they've got Michael Ura, Ty Barabo. If Carranza leaves, and I think Ty Barabo gets more of a look in, if Carranza doesn't leave, then Ty Barabo is going to remain a sub player. And Ty Barabo also doesn't have any AA, which is a little bit of a problem. But if he got more of a run in the team in the Philadelphia side, then he could actually have pretty good AA. Someone else we haven't talked about, we really should talk about him, is Walter Bowe, no? Not Walter Bowe. The other Bowe. Who's the guy I'm talking about? The guy who played for New England. What's happened to him? Gustavo Bowe, that's it, yeah. Gustavo Bowe. Yeah, that's exactly the guy that I want to look at right now. Because he's brilliant. £42.90 as well. Has anybody heard any rumours about Gustavo Bowe? We can look at some now. Like, is there any clubs that are being linked to him or anything like that? Has anybody heard any rumours about this guy? Like, where's he supposed to be going? What clubs is he linked to? because Gustavo Bo is brilliant. He's also struggled with injuries a little bit in the past, but when he's fit, if he stays in the MLS and somebody else picks him up, he can end up smashing it big time. Haven't heard anything at the moment, annoyingly. He is a great scorer, yeah. He's another one to keep an eye on, guys, because you can get him as a free agent, and he's not that expensive either. Just keep in mind he's a little bit injury prone. Aliou Ibrahim. He's £82, isn't he? Wow. On the market, he's £82, £83. He's not worth it. I think this guy really struggled to adapt to the MLS. He could do better, but he was struggling so much that he even got dropped. Initially, he was starting. I think, isn't he not a DP? Isn't Ibrahim a DP? I think he might be, you know. Oh, they signed him under the under-22 initiative. Okay, so he's not a DP. That's pretty good. That would have been nuts if they'd assigned him as a DP. Definitely not a DP type player. But getting him under the under-22 initiative is actually pretty smart. What about Chicharito? Yeah, wouldn't talk about him. He's as far as I know. Well, I haven't looked at him in a while, but Chicharito, did he have his contract renewed? Or is he like a free agent now? I think he's a free agent, right? Yeah, there we go. They're out of contract, Douglas Costa and Chicharito, and they will not return for the 2024 season. And we can see here as well that, yeah, they say that they're not going to return. They're out of contract, and it's going to free up 2 DP slots. Chicharito is actually not a bad shout from, who made the shout? The Milky Bar Kid. The one thing I've said about Chicharito is that you should only really try and pick him up if you can on the... He's got this weird name, isn't he? There we go. You should only really pick him up if you can get him cheap because he's so injury prone. I'd probably only buy him if I could get him for less than £20. I think £28.37 is actually kind of... It's not high, but I'd be more comfortable picking up this type of player for £20 or less rather than 28. But 28 is still okay. The thing you have to keep in mind with him is that he could go and play in Liga MX. He could go and play in the MLS again. Wherever he plays, you're not going to be able to get a full season out of him. So that's why you want to try and get him for as cheap as you can so that you can maximize the amount of points return that he gives you based on the money you spent. Don't put your blame on me. For who? Where's the blame? Here's my punty under-23 team I bought. Jacob Jackson, Zan Kolmanich. I don't like Zan. Federico Navarro's decent though. Jacob Schaufelberg, don't like him either. And then Nico Sakaris is okay. Yeah, there's a lot of players that... It's very punty, isn't it? Very, very punty. What's the thing you were talking about, Elias Paperhands? Yeah, it's also the thing to keep in mind with Chicharito is that he could just retire because he's just having so many injuries that if he does retire, then of course it's going to be horrible, right? That's why I kind of say, well, you need to be really careful with him. That's why another reason why I'll try to get him for as cheap as I can, because, losing £20 isn't too bad, the grand scheme of things, but ideally I'd want to try and lose potentially as little as possible by getting him for even less than 20, a lot less than 20. Tom Boggart Bombasso. What, has he posted something, has he? Ooh, okay. Charlotte FC have submitted a bid of around 9.5 million for attacking midfielder Albert Groenbeek from Bodo Glimt. That would be a massive sign-in. Massive from Bodo. I have some transfer news, but it's not from the MLS. Go on then, do share. Yeah, it probably makes sense, isn't it? What's your transfer news, Noodle? We're going to end the stream in a minute as well, guys, just to let you know. I support Kortrijk, with Abdul Kahar Kadri and stuff. Yeah, I do. What's the transfer news there then? You're going to tell me that Kadri's on his way to like a massive club? Hopefully. I'd love it if you told me that. I'm waiting for you to tell me some amazing news. Yeah, I saw. Yeah, Erkin Kara scored. Yeah, I was really happy about that because we sort of talked about it, didn't we? Saying that Erkin Kara is too cheap. Yeah, okay. And some Japanese talented centre back. Kadri's not included in Kortri's training camp or whatever. Okay, is that not just because he's still suffering with an injury? Or are you looking into it and thinking, well, he's not included because you guys are looking to sell him this month? What's the news then? I mean, I'd love him to move on. I really would. I feel like he's so wasted in Kortrijk at the moment. So, I mean, if he's not included in the squad, I'm actually really happy that he's not. You don't know, but some people said he's with the reserves at Algeria. Okay. I'll have to do some research on that myself. Thank you for letting me know, man. I appreciate it. All right. We're going to end the stream now, guys. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. We went through tons of players. Hopefully it's given you some food for thought about how you should approach your MLS season. I've definitely got some ideas as well. So we're going to be back again tomorrow, usual time at 12 p.m. UK time. So thank you so much for today. You'll catch me over on Twitter for a little bit as well. And enjoy the rest of your day, guys.